Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Mexican government has begun the process of extraditing drug lord Joaquin Chapo Guzman to the United States after he was recaptured in Mexico Friday. Guzman managed to escape through drains and tunnels and steal a car before Mexican forces nabbed him in a raid on his safe house. 5 suspects were killed in the operation. Guzman is now held at the maximum security Altiplano prison, the same prison he escaped from through a tunnel dug under his cell 6 months ago. He previously escaped from prison in a laundry cart in 2001. The United States had sought to extradite him before his most recent escape, but Mexico refused. Meanwhile, Mexican authorities say they were helped in their investigation of Guzman by his contacts with the outside world, including actor Sean Penn. In an interview published by Rolling Stone, Penn said he interviewed Guzman for 7 hours several months ago. In this excerpt, Guzman responds to a question about the harms caused by drugs.
Bueno, eso es una realidad.
Well, it's a reality that drugs destroy.
Drogas destruyen. Desgraciadamente, como le comento,
Unfortunately, as I said, where I grew up, there was no other way, and there still isn't a way to survive. No way to work in our economy to be able to make a living.
In Yemen, at least 5 people have been killed and 10 others wounded after a projectile hit a Doctors Without Borders hospital. The aid group says it can't confirm the origin of the attack, but that planes were flying over the hospital at the time. Teresa San Cristobal of Doctors Without Borders spoke out after the attack.
For this hospital, this concrete hospital, is the 3rd time that is attacked. For MSF, is the 3rd time that we are attacked in general as a medical facility. I would like to reiterate that we are not the only hospitals that they have been hit. There are those that there are many other hospitals that I have been hit, and this means a lot for the population. The population is deprived from medical assistance. The population is the main suffering on this war.
At least Yemeni 7 health clinics have been damaged or destroyed since the U.S.-backed Saudi-led coalition began bombing Houthi rebels in March. Doctors Without Borders says it regularly provides all warring parties, including the Saudi coalition, with its hospitals' GPS coordinates. The United States has sent a B-52 bomber on a low-level flight over South Korea in a show of force following last week's nuclear tests by North Korea. North Korea says it tested a hydrogen bomb, although U.S. and international experts have cast heavy doubt on that claim. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said the test was launched in defense in response to the, quote, danger of nuclear war caused by U.S.-led imperialists, he said. Catalonia's parliament has voted in a new pro-independence leader, restarting the push to secede from Spain over the next 18 months. The new leader, Carles Puigdemont, is expected to begin building an independent army, a central bank, and judiciary. The move comes after elections last month left Spain with a deeply divided parliament. The renewed push toward independence in Catalonia could pressure the Socialist Party to form a coalition with the conservative ruling People's Party, potentially sidelining the leftist anti-austerity Podemos party. In Israel, authorities are investigating a fire at the human rights group B'Tselem for signs of arson. The NGO, which documents human rights abuses in the Israeli-occupied Palestinian territories, has been targeted in a recent Israeli government crackdown over funding sources abroad. In a statement, B'Tselem said, quote, "If it is discovered that this was an arson attack, it must be seen in the context of the wave of government incitement and smear campaigns against Israel's human rights groups, and B'Tselem in particular." Meanwhile, Israeli police have killed an Arab citizen of Israel who was accused of fatally shooting 3 people in Tel Aviv earlier this month. Turkish officials say they killed 32 Kurds they identified as militants in the southeast, marking one of the bloodiest weekends in months. The news comes as a Turkish human rights group says up to 162 civilians have been killed since August, amidst a government crackdown on Kurdish areas. Meanwhile, Turkish journalists marked Working Journalist Day Sunday by rallying to demand the release of jailed reporters. Turkish journalist İsmet Demirdoğan was among those who gathered in Ankara.
People's right to learn the truth and make up their mind on current events is prevented. Unfortunately, Turkey goes through these dark days from time to time. I want to believe that we will rise above this ordeal again, as we did in the past. But more than 30 journalists are in jail after complaints only because they wrote the truth. Therefore, I am very saddened today as we mark Working Journalists Day.
Iran's foreign minister has published an op-ed in the New York Times accusing Saudi Arabia of attempting to derail Iran's nuclear deal with world powers, promoting extremism and perpetuating tension in the Middle East. The move comes after Saudi Arabia beheaded a Shiite cleric as part of the mass execution of 47 people. In response, Iranian protesters torched part of the Saudi embassy in Tehran, an act Iranian officials have condemned. After the burning, Saudi Arabia and its allies broke ties with Iran. In his op-ed, the Iranian foreign minister Mohammad Javad Zarif writes, quote, "The Saudi leadership must now make a choice. They can continue supporting extremists and promoting sectarian hatred, or they can opt to play a constructive role in promoting regional stability." In Poland, thousands of people rallied across the country Saturday to protest a crackdown on press freedom. A new law in Poland allows the Treasury Minister to appoint and fire the heads of public television and radio broadcasters. In Warsaw, protest organizers said democracy is at stake.
We are meeting because media freedom is in danger, and so is democracy. Media is an important safety tool. If media can't monitor those in power, public opinion will not know what they are doing. So we came here to show how important for us free media is.
In the German city of Cologne, 6 Pakistanis and a Syrian have been violently attacked amidst an anti-immigrant backlash over assaults on women on New Year's Eve. German police say they've focused mainly on North African suspects after hundreds of women reported attacks, including theft and sexual assault. The assaults have stoked anti-refugee sentiment in Germany, which saw more than 1 million refugees enter the country last year. On Saturday, the far-right Pegida movement threw bottles and firecrackers at police. In other news from Germany, a new report finds more than 200 members of a German boys' choir led by the brother of former Pope Benedict were abused over a period of 4 decades. Ulrich Weber, the attorney who conducted the report, said every third member of the choir and an affiliated school suffered some form of physical abuse, including at least 40 cases of sexual violence. Weber said he believes the Pope's brother, who directed the choir for 30 years, must have known of the abuse. In New York City, 7 people were arrested Friday after they disrupted traffic for more than an hour outside an immigration, customs, and enforcement office. The action was held to protest the new round of raids against Central American families. The raids have targeted people who sought asylum in the United States after fleeing violence in their home countries. The activists locked themselves to each other using PVC pipes to block traffic, forcing the police to cut them out of the pipes with electric saws. Undocumented activist Yajaira Saavedra spoke during the protest.
My name is Yajaira Saavedra. I'm undocumented. I'm from Mexico. I crossed the border when I was 4 years old. I'm here because I believe every child that crosses the border should get a political asylum. They shouldn't be in detention centers. They should be in school trying to get an education, being able to have a better future. I want there to be less military invasions. I want to see NAFTA out of our community. The whole American military complex is what's destroying countries like Mexico and causing people to flee across to the border where all the resources are being brought.
A Muslim woman and a Jewish man were kicked out of a Trump rally on Friday after silently protesting the Republican frontrunner's Islamophobic views. Speaking in Rock Hill, South Carolina, Trump began repeating his call to ban Muslims from entering the U.S. and said Syrian refugees are probably tied to the Islamic State. At that point, Rose Hamid, a flight attendant, and Marty Rosenbluth, an attorney, stood up in silent protest. We'll speak with Rose and Marty after headlines. In Washington state, 5 climate justice activists go on trial today for tying themselves to a 25-foot tripod structure to block a mile-long oil train. The protesters, members of the activist group Rising Tide Seattle, demanded a halt of shipments of fossil fuels through the Northwest. In an unprecedented move, the presiding judge will allow the defendants to argue their actions were necessary because of the threat of climate change. We'll have more on their case later in the broadcast. We'll speak with one of the activists in Seattle. In Baltimore, Maryland, jury selection begins today for the second police officer to go on trial for the death of Freddie Gray. A family attorney says Gray's spine was 80% severed at his neck from fatal injuries in police custody last April. Officer Caesar Goodson, who drove the van where Gray is believed to have suffered the fatal injuries, faces the most serious charges of any of the 6 indicted officers. The first officer tried for Gray's death, Officer William Porter, saw his case end in a mistrial last month. He faces a retrial in June. In New York City, a police sergeant has been hit with departmental disciplinary charges over the death of Eric Garner in 2014. Garner died after Officer Daniel Pantaleo pulled him to the ground in a chokehold. Officers then piled on top of Garner as he said, "I can't breathe," 11 times. Garner was accused of selling loose cigarettes. While a grand jury failed to indict Officer Pantaleo for the fatal chokehold, Sergeant Kizzy Adonis, who's African-American, has been stripped of her gun and badge for failing to supervise the officers involved in Garner's death. Garner's oldest daughter, Erica, responded to the news in a video posted online.
A year and a half later, the only people indicted in my dad's case are people of color. A year and a half later, this is the only answers that New York has to offer the Garner family. Not one of the 8 killer cops that was on my dad's back was charged for anything. This underscores the fundamental problem in this country. This is why we can't reform our way out of this. This is why we can't train our way out of this. It doesn't matter about more Black police officers. It doesn't matter about more Black district attorneys. It doesn't matter about Black police chiefs. All the way up to the president, it still doesn't matter.
Erica Garner is joining a rally today to coincide with a court date for Ramsey Orta. He's the young man who filmed the fatal chokehold of Eric Garner that went viral. Orta has been arrested multiple times after he says police targeted him and his family for releasing the video. Erica Garner refers to Ramsey Orta as, quote, "the only man charged in my dad's death." Billionaire hedge fund investor Stephen Cohen has avoided paying any fines after nearly a decade of probes into widespread accusations of insider trading at his firm, SAC Capital. The Securities and Exchange Commission accused Cohen of ignoring clear signs that, quote, should have caused a reasonable hedge fund manager to investigate potential insider trading by his employee, Matthew Martoma. Martoma is serving a 9-year prison term after becoming the 8th employee of Cohen's firm convicted of insider trading. But under the deal with regulators, Cohen himself is barred from managing investors' money for just 2 years. And the pop legend David Bowie has died at the age of 69. Known for his gender-bending style and hits including Changes, Let's Dance, Fame, and many more, Bowie died Sunday after a battle with cancer. His last album, Black Star, came out Friday on his 69th birthday. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.